This is Zen Arcade by Husker Du. Let's talk records. It is January 1979 in St. Paul, Minnesota. Friends sharing a love of punk. Bob Mould, Grant Hart, and Greg Norton played together for the first time under the name Husker Du. Mould was a regular at local record store Cheapo Records, where both Hart and Norton worked. Mould and Hart bonded over their mutual love of Ramones, but their story started earlier, at a show where Ramones opened for Foreigner. This strange combination made an impact. Soon after, they began practicing together, playing rock covers and Ramones songs. One of their early covers was Psycho Killer by Talking Heads, but when they couldn't remember the French words, qu'est-ce que c'est, they started shouting random foreign words, including the name of a 1970s board game, HÜSKER Du. The phrase means "do you remember" in Danish. They loved the name and kept it, adding metal umlauts for good measure. By the early 1980s, Husker Du evolved from straight punk into something faster and more aggressive, becoming one of the first hardcore bands in the Midwest. That sound caught the attention of bands like Dead Kennedys and Black Flag, eventually landing Husker Du on SST Records, run by Greg Ginn of Black Flag. But after a few years of groundbreaking hardcore singles and EPs, Husker Du was ready to evolve again. They wanted to push hardcore's boundaries, mixing in melody and experimentation. They had already built a college rock following thanks to their melodic edge. While most hardcore records barely cracked 30 minutes, Husker Du went bigger, blending hardcore, psychedelic rock, folk, and noise into a sprawling concept album. The story follows a kid escaping a broken home only to discover the world outside is just as unforgiving. The music itself is messy, ambitious, and sometimes even painful to hear. Bob Mould's guitar sounds like it's falling apart, and Grant Hart's drums barely pause for breath. Tracks like Charter Trips and Pink Turns Blue proved that Husker Du could write melodies just as well as they could destroy them. Released July 3rd, 1984, Zen Arcade was produced by Spot in about 40 hours for recording and another 40 for mixing for around $3,200. The cover photo, the band walking through a junkyard, was shot by Mark Peterson, while the artwork was designed by Grant Hart himself. Hart would go on to design many of the band's covers. The album was critically praised, but SST only pressed about 5,000 copies at first, and slow reprints meant it lost momentum before it could fully catch on. Still, its influence ran deep. It directly inspired other hardcore legends, Minutemen, to release their own double album, Double Nickels on the Dime, that same year. Zen Arcade's influence only grew. When Pixies formed in 1986, they ran a classified ad looking for a bassist who liked Husker Du and Peter, Paul, and Mary. Only Kim Deal answered. Today, you can hear echoes of Zen Arcade in Nirvana, Sonic Youth, Green Day, Jawbreaker, and Fugazi. Its legacy of a punk refusing to stand still is unquestionable.